Greetings and welcome to another Warhammer 40,000 Kill Team video, where today I'm going over the stat show for January for Kill Team. But before we get into things, please remember to like and subscribe as well as comment. Let me know what you thought of today's video, if you found it useful and helpful. And remember, I've got a Discord you can check out for free in the episode description below, an affiliate link at Element Games, an affiliate link and discount code at Crossfire Games, and a Patreon if you want to give me some more support. But yeah, once again, we're back with the stat show covering the global stats for Kill Team for January 2025. Once again, everything is collated from the Best Coast Pairings app, as well as whatever TOs give us. So if you don't use BCP, let us know and we can add it on. Also, this will be available on Smiles, Lies and Gunfire's website, which has all the stats. It will be updated shortly after the video goes live, and you can check all the stats and tinker around with them as much as you like in the website down below. And thanks goes to Smiles, Lies, Gunfire, who without this wouldn't be possible. But as always, let's just get on with the stats. So as you can see, this is the world map. We're still missing Australia. Apparently, rumour says when the balanced data slate drops, so will Australia. But America had the most events with 51 events and 746 players. Then the UK with 11 events, Spain with 8, Canada with 4, and then France with 3. So all over, we had 106 events with 1,500 players. Still down from like the peak of Kill Team, which was nearly 3,000. Well, anywhere from 2,200 to 3,000. But we're getting there. So starting off with overall win rates, I'm not going to lie, it's a very weird month. We're still waiting on a balanced data slate that hasn't come. So starting off with 46 games and a 68% win rate, we have Wormblade. Then with 156 games, we have Warp Coven with a 64% win rate. This is very reliable. Warp Coven basically dominating the game right now as the best faction. Then you've got oddly Blades of Cain. So they're on 101 games with a 64% win rate. Now they've actually been going up and down every month, just sitting under 55%. This month they've kind of done crazy, but I'll get into why later. Although there's rumors they might be buffed in the balanced data slate. And if they are, oh dear. Ratlings have a very good month with 149 games and a 63% win rate. They are doing incredibly well. Then we have Void Dancer Troop on 189 games and 58% win rate. This is totally fine. Void Dancer Troop are back to where they used to be. According to all Void Dancer Troop players, it's fine. It's totally fine. Don't worry, it's okay. And then below 55%, we actually have Legionary. So they're on 389 games. They are the most popular faction in the game. And to be fair, it's quite worrying they're at 55%, basically, on such a large number of games. Then you have Plague Marines at 54% and a nice even faction spread. Going down to below 45, at 44, we have Angels of Death with 331 games, but they have kind of solidified themselves in that position. Hunterclade with only 48 games at 44%. Then we've got Jaegers at 41%, Kazakan at 40%, Commandos at 40%, Breachers going up to 38%, Aquilons going down to 37%, Scouts at 34%, Deathcore at 32%, Vespid at 32%, Pathfinders at 30%, Chaos Cut at 26%, and Galapox with a 25% win rate, which is good. Here's it in, graph form. So as you can see, to be fair, we now have less overperforming factions and we have slightly less underperforming factions. So technically, it's getting a bit better. Standout goes to Wreckers with 307 games, hitting about a 52% win rate, which is really, really good, considering they're effectively double the number of games of Ratlings. So very nice there. For the podium data, here's the podium data, so representing how many times a faction went at least 1 loss and 3 wins or higher. Podium, so if they finished first, second, or third, how many events they won, pick rate, and all of that. And then here's the graph. So starting off, Ratlings and Legionary both won 7 events, which is very fine. Then you had Phobos on 6 and Plague Marines on 5. And then we have Void Dancers and Farstalkers on 4, Warp Coven, Angels of Death, Halfkin, Mandrakes, and Novitiates on 3, and then Wreckers and Blades of Cain on 2. So Blades of Cain, despite their really high win rate, have actually only won 2 events and podium 7 times. And then you've got Hyrotech, Hand of the Ark, and Corsairs, Nemesis Claw, Felgor Ravager, Commandos, Exaction, and Wormblade, all winning 1 event. And podium-wise, we might have an issue because Wreckers are on 16 podiums, which is, I'm sure it's fine. It's just their first full month. It's fine. Don't worry. Rattlings actually had 12 podiums, which is really good. Plague Marines podiumed 13 times, but they had the highest ratio of number of players with minimum 1 loss, well, maximum 1 loss and minimum 3 wins, so very good there. But you can see how it kind of once again balances out the win rate. Not Hand of the Archon. Void Dancer Troop, you know, they had a really high win rate, but well, they actually have won 4 events, so that actually correlates quite well. But then you look at Blades of Cain, they've done really well on the win rate wise, but they've only won 2 events and only podiumed 7 times, which is still good, but not as good as the rest of the field. Now we come on to GT Plus, so these are tournaments with 4 or more rounds and 16 or more players. This is the general standard that Games Workshop looks at for balancing. So for Wormblade, they go down to 29 games, but with a 67% win rate. Blades of Cain go down to 73 games, but hold at a 64% win rate. Warp Coven still above 100 games with 63%. Bloodage shoot up to a 61% win rate. Felgor also shoot up to a 60% win rate. Rattlings go down a bit to 59%. Hand of the Archon come up to 57. Void Dancer Troop go up to 57. And then Star Striders are just in at 56. Legionary set at 55, but they have the most games, which is, you know, okay, it's totally fine. Then going to underperforming teams, so just below 45%. Oddly, Kazakin are at 45, so Kazakin doing slightly okay. Then you've got Halfkin down to 44, Exaction to 44, Angels of Death down to 43, Hunterclade to 43, Jaegers down to 39, Vespid to 38. Then we have Breachers at 36, Aquilans at 35, Commandos down to 34, Deathcore at 32, Chaos Cult down to 25%, Pathfinders down to 23%, and then unfortunately with only 1 game, Galapox are at 0% win rate. I told you, you all thought I was mad. I'd said until the balance data slate drops, every month we will have a new faction hit 0% win rate. Unfortunately, it's Galapox this time. And here it is in chart form, so you can see it spread out a little bit better. Worryingly, well, I mean, it's like we all know this. The teams underperforming rises sharply when we go to GT Plus, and then it's otherwise as expected. As the only standouts are really Hand of the Archon, Rattlings, Felgor, Blooded, and Blades of Cain. Well, Wormblade also, but they have a quite low game rate at 29, but still not it's like technically there's some variation, but the meta isn't great. Then once again, here's the podium data for GT Plus events. And then looking at it in graph form, we can see Legionary actually won the most events with 3 events in GT Plus. Then Plague Marines, Rattlings, Angels of Death, and Faststalker Kinban all won 2 events. Then Warp Coven, Nemesis Claw, Void Dancer Troop, Corsair, Felgor, Phobos, Halfkin, and Commandos all won 1 event. And interestingly, you can see like Blades of Cain, despite their high win rate, only won 2 events and only podiumed 6 times. Well, they only podiumed 2 times, and they only had 6 players with minimum 1 loss and at least 3, well, maximum 1 loss and minimum 3 wins. Legionary still have a really high podium ratio and 3-to-1 ratio, although Warp Coven and Nemesis Claw spike really hard. So Nemesis Claw doing quite well this month. Now we go on to GT Long. So GT Long is our like long format for like larger events, which there were at least 2 of this month. So this is for tournaments with 6 or more rounds and 36 or more players. So this is for big events. So Exaction Squad with only 6 games have a 67% win rate. Exaction Squad don't care. This is the best result they've ever had. It's a complete win here. Amazing. Wormblade with 14 games have a 64% win rate. Blades of Cain with 39 games have a 64% win rate. Then we have Warp Coven with 61 games have a 64% win rate. Novitiates with 45 games have a 60% win rate. Hand of the Archon with 25 on 60%. Star Striders with 16 games, 59%. And this is where it gets quite bad. Legionary with 140 games on a 57% win rate is very bad. This is like danger, Will Robinson. Rattlings with 24 games on a 56% win rate, and then Blooded with 26 games on 56%. So then we have a nice leveling out in the 55 to 45 range. Oddly, Void Dancer troops go down into that normal range. And then going below 45%, we have Angels of Death. Well, technically, Angels of Death actually just hit 45%. Then we have Hunter Clade at 43%, Kazakin down to 40%, Vespid actually go up in GT Long to 39%, Jaegers at 35%, Mandrakes at 35%, dropping down from the healthy range, Aquilans at 33%, Breaches at 33%, Deathcore at 31%, Commandos at 30%, Chaos Cult at 25%, Brood Brothers at 20%, Pathfinders at 16%, and Galapox at 0%. We are missing some factions, but because GT Long doesn't really, because we don't have that many regular GT Long events, you're going to be missing some factions. And here's the graph form so you can kind of enjoy it. It is oddly more balanced in terms of, divvying out which is in which category than GT Plus. But like that Legionary win rate is really bad because they have 140 games. Plague Marine have 139 games and effectively sit on a 50% win rate, which is actually pretty fine. The fact Legionary spike up in GT Long is a really bad sign. It means they're doing like way too well. And once again, here's all the podium data for GT Long so you can see how well factions are winning. And in the graph format, we can see Warp Coven won one event, Halfkin won another, and then for podiums, Warp Coven podium twice, Halfkin podium once, Legionary podium once, Plague Marines podium once, and Corsairs podium once. So effectively, this is combining the two GT Long events, Warhammer World and LVO. For 3-1s, Legionary had the highest 3-1s because, of course, they would. Then it was Warp Coven, which had to be expected, and then you've got Blades of Cain, and then it just kind of evens out. So yeah, I mean, GT Long looks really bad for if you're Legionary. And then we have a new, just for the sake of this month, we have a new win rate stat, which is just elites versus non-elites. So Smiles, Lies and Gunfire has kind of put together all the win rates for January and then compared it to basically elite kill teams, so kill teams with 6 or less models, versus kill teams who aren't elites. And it's not good. As you can see, basically the bigger it is, the worse it is. And you can see, even though non-elites massively outnumber elite kill teams have the higher win rate. So like elite kill teams are averaging like just above a 60% win rate to just above 55, whereas everyone else is kind of like, even though they outnumber elites, they're not as high, which is just fine. We're in a horrible meta, but at least it's kind of like proven via the data. And then we have the event list covering all the events that will happen for January. As you can see the Las Vegas Open, which was the largest kill team event in the world with 158 players. And then we had the kill team event at Warhammer World and going down as always. So for the January stats overview, look, so everyone knows what the meta is. The meta teams, like effectively, if you want to win and do well at events, the meta teams are Warp Coven, Legionary, Inquisitorial Agents, Void Dancer Troop, and Hierotek Circle. Now, what I've noticed is a lot of players are very bored with this meta because it's just not fun, like myself included. So I know a lot of people have like actively not running those teams. But as you can see, when we got to GT Long, it kind of flipped back to how it normally went. So we had Legionary like literally dominating the stats for GT Long, whereas Warp Coven still won out in the end, where Warp Coven have just been consistently overperforming. It's still a balance issue, but Warp Coven have probably one of the worst designed kill teams we've ever had in the game. And it's like the only thing that saves it is there's technically a meta, and that meta is those 6 teams. But because people aren't getting bored with those teams, we've seen a sudden uptake with Blades of Cain. I've also heard rumors Blades of Cain might be buffed in the upcoming data slate, which, would explain why so many people are picking them up. You see in other game systems in Age of Sigmar and 40k where you find out who's in the know, you just become their like very friendly friend, and you find out stuff. Now, this all could be rumors and hearsay. Unfortunately, I did, even though I'm not a playtester, I did say Blades of Cain needed buffing, but on the counterpoint, because so many people aren't playing these meta teams, as in terms of like namely Warp Coven, that's partly why Blades of Cain will be doing so well, because like generally speaking, Blades of Cain can't beat Walk Coven, and they can kind of do okay into Legionary. So we'll see. It's not like, oh, everyone's figured out a new way to play. I think people are just bored. You can see a lot of people have shifted to Ratlings and Wreckers. Now, they are pretty good teams, but it's also because they're new. Like, I've shifted off Legionary now. I was only playing them mainly for LVO. Now LVO's done, I've been playing another team. I know lots of other people have. It's like friends as well as players around the world, and we can see that reflecting with like the top 6 kind of going down, and then other factions picking up the pace. Legionary have still like always been a really popular faction. They still consistently are the most popular faction, and it's very worrying despite their large player base, like 380 games. They still have a like just okay win rate overall, barely. The fact like when you go up to GT Long that they just break everything is a very bad sign. But this is nothing new. This is stuff we've known for at least October. Like, as I said, we all knew this by the end of November. There was no real surprise here. So we're kind of just on a stale meta, waiting for this delayed balanced data slate. Notably, we've had some other good we have had some other good results for some other teams. Like Void Dancer Troop consistently prove that they are incredibly strong. So we'll be kind of worrying if they aren't tapped down along with the other teams. Wormblade, while they had a great month, it was from a very low amount of games. So it's not exactly the most reliable, although they did consistently do well in all 3 formats of stats. Then we had kind of like Phobos and Nemesis Claw sit quite evenly in the win rates, although Nemesis Claw has had a really good month where their win rate has just been solid, but they've actually done really well with podiuming and going at least 3 wins with a maximum of 1 loss. So they've done really well this month as well. Jaegers have dropped down a bit, which is not really surprising. Commandos, I mean, did worse. Kazakin oddly did a bit better this month, but they're like just like barely better. Aquilon did a little bit better. Breachers did a little bit better. So maybe it's just like people kind of surviving. Obviously, Galapox had a horrible month, but hardly anyone played them, which is to be expected when you have a large number of factions. But nothing really changed. This is the problem when, like, it's weird. It's a complex issue when you're just waiting for a balanced data slate. It's really disappointing. But I'm trying not to turn this stats video into complaining about the balanced data slate. But as I said, everyone knows what the meta is, and it's just kind of being reflected in the stats. The only thing that's changed is people are getting bored, so they're playing other factions. But when it comes to the big major events, people switch to those factions and then win those events. So it's not a huge change. Blades of Cain, sure, they may be a problem, but we'll need to see how they do next month, especially considering hopefully we should have a new balanced data slate. And, you know, we've had factions have these spikes, but, you know, as I said, partly the reason they've spiked up so hard is because a lot of people have started playing them, partly because everyone's bored with this meta. So, you know, it's been a funny month. It's just like, as I said, nothing's changed, and then some things have. It's just really disappointing we didn't get that balanced data slate. But before I go, thanks goes to Smiles Lies Gunfire. Remember, you'll have his stats website in the episode description if you want to tinker with his stats and see them all throughout like the past months and that. But that's pretty much it from me today. Please remember to like and subscribe as well as comment. Let me know what you thought of today's video. Did you find it useful and helpful? Remember, I've got a Discord you can check out for in the episode description below, an affiliate link at Element Games, an affiliate link and discount code at Crossfire Games, and a Patreon if you want to give me some more support. And I'm just going to quickly shout out my patrons. So for my adepts of the creative, Tom, Supercow, Sam, Mercenary Q, Mr. Meatwad, Lucas, Jeremiah, Graham, Fangzu, Draken, Dave Meatsworld, Darcy, Dan, Dado Goldens, Chris, and Morpheum, and then for my veterans of the creative, Samja and Mark. So thank you so much for your support. It really means a lot to me and helps support the channel. But yeah, this is pretty much it from me today. Hopefully this is the last time I'm talking about this horrible meta, this really boring meta. I'm so sick of it. It should be interesting if it drops this week, because then all of a sudden, oh wow, February will be entirely new data. But it's just boring. Like, that's the worst thing. It's like, at least there is a meta. It's just a horrible meta of 6 teams. And then it comes down to like people not getting bored with those factions. But this is technically video 3 or 4, depending on what happens on Wednesday. If the balanced data slate dropped on Wednesday, then this video has been moved to Thursday. If not, I'm incredibly sad. And this video came out on time. But remember, no matter what the stats say, you always have a chance to win, as long as you can roll a crit.